All right, so I'm now standing on the walkway between Economy Lot and Terminal 1, and here's one of those portable lights behind me. It's actually not even turned on right now, proving the point of how dark it can be on this walkway. And I'll have my photographer turn off our camera light right now. You can see it is almost pitch black out here, so we'll get the light back on. So it just kind of shows you, yes, these concerns are valid. The street lights next to me also not turned on. After several minutes of arguing and opening and closing the doors, Victoria says she gave up and she took the 7 women. And what happens next, she's thankful she has on video. We submitted a records request with Clark County for Tellis's emails starting in May through September 2nd. That's the day Gehrman was murdered outside his home. And though some of these are heavily redacted, these emails provide a glimpse into what Tellis was thinking and writing to county officials and others, showing him become more concerned of his colleagues and doing what he could to save his reputation. Spending more money on prevention now might be the only way to lower the cost of suppression in the future.
We would have spent, a few $1 million. We could have thinned all around Greenville and it would still be standing.
Everyone in these 911 calls thinking that there was an active shooter at the airport, which we later learned wasn't true. But the people we're about to hear all scared, some crying, fearing for their lives as they think they hear gunshots and see hundreds of people running. This stems from Nye County's plan to implement hand counting of ballots in this year's midterm elections, and that's something that ACLU says violates multiple Nevada state laws. And this could be a preview of things to come, not only here in Nevada and other counties, but also across the country. After other wildfires like the Dixie and Caldor, it seems like the Tamarack was overshadowed. But those who are affected haven't forgotten, and state and federal politicians are still demanding answers and policy changes so it doesn't happen again. Receiving over 700 documents regarding their initial response, writing in an email on July 17th, we expect significant scrutiny of our decision to monitor this fire. The warrants also reveal police were investigating Tellis's colleague, Roberta Lee Kennett, the two alleged to have an inappropriate relationship based on Gehrman's reporting, saying her phone records would help prove or disprove her involvement in the murder. The universal mail ballots, you also mentioned maybe moving the deadline up to Election Day. So is that a concession you'd make? Maybe they don't get rid of universal ballots, but they move the deadline. Is that something you'd consider?
It's all negotiations, and it is. It's a concession.
I think the National Party really needs to take a hard look and see, who is representing the Republican Party.
Now, News 3 has made multiple attempts to contact Michelle Fiore, Michael McDonald, and the Republican National Committee, and we have not received any response yet. I do also want to say we did not air the worst of those videos, but we will have them posted on our website, news3lv.com. We are able to now independently verify that the FBI did indeed seize the phone of Nevada Republican Chair Michael McDonald. That's because he told me himself, and that's part of a January 6th investigation.
FBI showed up very professional, very polite. They had a subpoena for the phone, and we gave the subpoena over to them.
That's Nevada GOP Chair Michael McDonald describing the day the FBI subpoenaed his phone 2.5 weeks ago. He says they still have it somewhere in Washington, D.C. Are you worried that they have it?
No, look, I'm law enforcement, so they got to be able to do their investigation. Fine with that. And the rest of it's handled with the attorneys.
Did that come as a surprise when they showed up?
No. I kind of expected, because the January 6th Commission, they've been subpoenaing a lot of stuff.
Tonight, a News 3 investigation gives an inside look into Robert Tellis as he goes from Clark County Public Administrator to the accused killer of Review Journal investigative reporter Jeff Gehrman.
Our reporter Brett Forrest has been looking through those. He joins us here in the studio. And Brett, the email sent by Tellis right after Gehrman's first investigation was published.
Yeah, Jim Latoya, good evening. That's right. We submitted a records request with Clark County for Tellis's emails starting in May through September 2nd. That's the day Gehrman was murdered outside his home. And though some of these are heavily redacted, these emails provide a glimpse into what Tellis was thinking and writing to county officials and others, showing him become more concerned of his colleagues and doing what he could to save his reputation.
Robert Tellis case.
Robert Tellis now awaiting trial, accused of murder. The motive believed to be retaliation to a series of investigative reports into a toxic workplace in Clark County's public administrator office.
Affidavit has been date stamped March 6th.
May 15th, the day Gehrman's first report published. Tellis sends multiple emails for damage control, starting with one to his boss in Human Resources, a lengthy defense of himself and office. He calls the Review Journal article a, quote, hit piece that is extremely troubling. Tellis also criticizes colleagues like Rita Reed, a longtime employee in the office who played a large role in Gehrman's report. Tellis writes, quote, Rita and her clan want me out.
Rita wants her power back. Rita Reed beat Tellis in the June Democratic primary. Tellis then emailing unions, commissioners, and leaders who endorsed him. Tellis writes, quote, "As you know, the RJ is more focused on destroying Democratic chances than it is reporting the truth." After Gehrman's report, the county brought in ex-coroner Michael Murphy to consult and rein in the office. This move led to the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers to rescind their endorsement a day before the primary.
But we have not rescinded an endorsement on a public level or a state level like this in the past. So to do so was unusual for us. We didn't feel we should be aligned with that type of individual, with the allegations coming out more and more and more.
June 15th, Tellis appears to be apprehensive of Michael Murphy, emailing his boss, quote, "Mike has made a bit of a mess in the office," and, quote, "Mike has not been transparent with me about what he is doing." June 22nd, Tellis emailing friends and supporters, subject line, "Gratitude and apologies," calling the Gehrman reports, quote, "disgusting and defamatory," adding, "For me, while it was upsetting for some time, this will have no long-term effect on my personal life." July 27th, Tellis sends a long email to his boss, ending with this, quote, "It seems that another article will be coming out soon. I'm sure you heard about the latest FOIA requests from the RJ. They just need to be sure that I all-round look like a monster."
Now, we did reach out to Tellis' attorney for this story, but they have no comment, and he is scheduled to be back in court February 1st. His trial expected to start in April. Reporting live in studio, I'm Brett Forrest, News 3.
We're being told that this whole thing was to bring investors to revitalize this, but $200,000 did nothing to revitalize it.
Yeah, the goal was to drum up business through music, but some shop owners in Commercial Center tell us the free outdoor concert backfired big time. Clark County organized what was billed as a block party that some say only blocked profits. Good evening, I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Latoya Silman. Tonight, News 3 is holding officials accountable, and our Brett Forrest has been following this story. Brett, we're now 4 days removed from this event, but some small businesses owners, they're not backing down from this.
Yeah, Jim, Latoya, good evening. The Commercial Center used to be a big part of Vegas. These days, not so much. So Clark County officials really did think this block party would help put it back on the map, drum up so much business, as you said, but that just does not appear to be the case. The county tells me only 4,500 people came to the event. That's after they announced 12,000 free tickets sold out within hours. I don't think people expected all 12,000 to show up, but the 4,500, much less than anticipated. One business owner here telling me he had to have an online fundraiser to make up lost income from that event last week, shutting off people going into his business. Other owners here telling me that Clark County officials, a commissioner, making some what they say are upsetting, unsettling comments to them, and comments that they say an elected official should never be making to their constituents.
I was also told, in addition, that nobody cares about us and our businesses don't matter.
According to 4 witnesses I interviewed, Clark County Commissioner Ross Miller and another county official made these comments to Commercial Center business owners ahead of Thursday's much-touted block party.
We were also told that we were a waste of resources, that he could buy this building up and burn it to the ground, and nobody would care.
What he said was so out of line and just so heartless.
Miller allegedly saying this to the Jones family, but others nearby heard it too.
I overheard that our businesses don't matter and that we're a waste of resources. He wants to burn and level this place to the ground. That's what I heard.
I called Commissioner Miller's office.
Hi, you've reached Clark County Commissioner Ross Miller's office. We can take your call right now, but please.
And then his personal number.
Has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Eventually only getting this statement from the county, not denying the conversation took place, but calling it, quote, misleading, saying he read them a legal definition for blight and told them, quote, the response to such conditions is a choice between removing the facilities altogether and starting from scratch or working with what's there to improve it. Business owners say that did not happen.
How can you do that to business owners who work so hard? Not to mention the fact that we were some of the lucky ones. We survived the pandemic.
But it doesn't end there. A business owner sharing an email thread. In it, you see Commissioner Ross Miller saying he's, quote, baffled by the sense of entitlement and questioning whether he should personally contribute any further continued public service to help.
I want dialogue. I want to have a successful block party out here to shine a light on this really unique and vibrant community.
The same email thread showing a reply from Commissioner Tick Sagerbloom, who represents these businesses in his district, calling them, quote, ungrateful miscreants.
It's confusing. It's very confusing because these are people that I voted for.
Now, after receiving those emails, I did reach out to Commissioner Tick Sagerbloom, asking him about his comments, and he replied to me, quote, it was not good on my part, adding, quote, they have legitimate concerns, but we are hoping our efforts benefit everyone going forward. Now, I do also want to bring up again that business I mentioned that had to turn to an online fundraiser just to make up lost income from that event last Thursday. Now, the owner of this bookstore is saying they were forced to close for days last week with the block party setting up right outside their shop. And as we were reporting, the fences with privacy screens that were put up blocking many of these businesses from public view. So despite thousands of attendees, the bookshop says they only made 5 sales during the event.
It was a real blow to us. And that's the thing. So we lost a lot of money. I mean, a lot of these places lost a lot of money. We're not the only one. You know, that's the unfortunate thing. You know, there's food places here that bulked up food, you know, that had to go to waste.
Now, that fundraiser did already hit its $5,000 goal, and the bookshop owner says that if the community still wants to support them, they can come down here and shop in person and support all these businesses here at Commercial Center. I'm Brett Forrest reporting live, News 3. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Wildfires burning hotter, bigger, and longer.
Eventually in my lifetime I'd see all this stuff burn, but I didn't think it'd all happen in a matter of a couple months.
And they're getting more expensive to put out.
It's like we spent $1 billion on this fire, and all we got to show for it is 1 million acres burned in Greenville in ashes.
This year's Dixie Fire in California, the state's largest single wildfire in history, burning for over 100 days, ripping through almost 1 million acres, destroying over 1,300 buildings, including homes and entire towns.
It boggles the mind that we spend so much money and get so little in return.
With the confluence of factors like climate change, extreme drought, and a policy of total fire suppression leading to unhealthy forest conditions, not only are these wildfires burning more intensely, they're getting more expensive to fight.
When we look at large and damaging fires, we're looking at the costs of bringing in fire engines and hand crews, bulldozers from across the entire state of California, as well as multiple aircraft, both helicopters and airplanes.
CAL FIRE spent over $1.7 billion in emergency funds for fire suppression in the last fiscal year. That's in addition to the $2.3 billion base budget. Fiscal year 2020 to 21 is the first time CAL FIRE's emergency fund suppression spending crossed the $1 billion mark. And this season's estimate, $1.4 billion, more than double the $600 million in California's budget.
We have a large budget reserve. It's called a Special Fund for Economic Uncertainties. And clearly when you go through that much money in 5 months, over $600 million, that's an economic uncertainty.
Are there scenarios where, because we're just spending so much money on these, that the accountant is maybe like, you know, it's best not to use these planes today because it's
Never.
going to save some money? It never happens?
Never happens. Never has happened. Never will happen. Any amount of resources that are needed immediately to go to those crews, to keep them on the lines, to keep planes in the air, no expense will be spared.
Palmer says expect the cost to remain high, the new normal. California lawmakers passed a new $1.5 billion wildfire resilience package this year with money to be spent on preventative measures. In Nevada, they're facing much of the same as their neighbors to the west, with the state allotting $4.5 million each year, but fire suppression costs recently hitting around $20 million.
It's obviously always a concern. The legislature and the governor's finance office have worked very closely with us to increase our funds over time.
Getting the final cost to fight these fires each year is complex, with agencies working together on private, state, and federal lands, taking years to sort out who owes who. More financial help coming through on the federal infrastructure bill. Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto adding a provision securing $3.4 billion for wildfire prevention.
I can guarantee you of my colleagues on energy and natural resources, this was supported by both Republicans and Democrats because we want to protect our communities. We want to address these wildfires.
Spending more money on prevention now might be the only way to lower the cost of suppression in the future.
We would have spent, a few $1 million. We could have thinned all around Greenville and it would still be standing. Instead, with a campfire, we spent a couple $1 billion just on cleaning up the wreckage.
State officials stress the money to fight wildfires won't run out, though the cost keeps rising and the fires keep growing. And there are other costs you can't put a price tag on.
I think the cost is just that my kids are not going to know the forest that I grew up in. And so that's a huge cost that there's no amount of money we could spend right now to have that forest back.
I'm Brett Forrest reporting.